In this lesson, I want to tell you about the Rhino 6 interface. Let's start with this menu here. Here there's a menu that includes File, Edit, View, Curves, and so on and so on. Next, we have the command line. In the command line, you can enter any command that you don't want to look for, or if you've forgotten what it is, or if it takes too long to find. For example, the duplicate edge command, which allows you to copy the edge of a model. I used it often, but it wasn't very convenient to search for it. So I just type in dup edge, and there you go. The duplicate edge command is activated. Next, we have this menu here. There is a standard tab. It has pretty much the same words. Here are the most important functions, you could say. New file, open file, save, print, document properties. To find the file, therefore, properties, you can click here, and the document properties will open. Also, pay attention that if you left click, the open file Rhino window will open. There you go. It suggests opening files in the Rhino format. But if we right click, it will offer us to import, to load some file. It doesn't have to be in the Rhino format. This is the case with most functions here. Left click does one thing, right click does another. Next, in this menu, we have cut, then copy objects. Let's try it. We'll create a box, like this, like that. You can simply select it by left-clicking with your mouse, and after that, copy or cut it. Let's cut and paste it. It's just like in most text editing programs. Ctrl-K, Ctrl-V, copy to clipboard, paste to clipboard. This allows us to copy and paste objects. If, for example, we have a lot of identical cubes or some diamonds to make, an array isn't suitable here, then you can just copy them. Boom! There you go. Next, we have the undo action. So, if I deleted all the cubes, I can press it and they'll reappear. If you right-click, that's the redo action. Next are the viewport navigation tools. Right-click is for rotation, and right-click is also for zooming in and out. Shift plus right-click lets you pan with the hand tool. Here they've added a separate button for panning. You can enable the hand tool. You can enable it and so on. Next we have zoom. Zoom is still related to moving objects. There you go. Here's the zoom window. If it's really far away, like it is for me right now, like this. If you're walking somewhere over here and want to move over there, you use the zoom window, drag it and zoom in. Next is just the regular zoom. When you've zoomed out really far like this, you can click this button and it will zoom you back in. Next is zoom selected. When let's copy the cubes. Now we have 4 cubes and you want to focus on one of them. Imagine you have not 4, but 20 cubes, and you want to zoom in on just one. You select it, click zoom selected, and it zooms in. Next, we have the button to return the view back, so to speak. You had a good camera angle and you accidentally messed it up. You press the button and it goes back. Click this button and you return to the good camera angle. Next is the for viewports button. This is for when if you accidentally, say, pulled out one viewport somewhere or removed it completely. Here's close viewport. That's it. You've closed it. If you right-click, that is, restore it to how it was originally, it will reappear. If you left-click, it will simply, let's say you have this thing like here. For example, you selected 3 viewports. You can click on 4, and there will be 4 with a different layout. Let's move on. Here we can simply set different views. By the way, regarding views, if you double click on the name of a view, it will open in full screen. Next we have the function to set, so to speak, the center of this plan, the C-plane, which is this plane here, the grid. This function we're looking at now allows us to open a menu with various snapping options. select all. And if you hold down and select all, there will be functions for selecting objects. Next, we have the light bulb icon. Well, it's clear if we have a cube, for example, and we select it. A left click on the light bulb will make it disappear, and a right click will make it reappear. Next is locking the object. I often do this with reference objects. Lock them so that references aren't accidentally selected. Right click to unlock. Then comes the layer panel for layers. Right here it is. The layer panel opens. The layer panel, so you have layer 1. Let's select our cube and send it to layer 1. And for us, for example, this will be cubes. Cubes, there you go, cubes. And among the cubes, we have big cubes and small cubes. We can create a sublayer. Oh, a sublayer, big. And the second sublayer, small. Let's select this big cube that we have. Right click on the big cube sublayer and send it there, this big one. And we'll send small ones to small ones. And now we can hide the small cubes or the big ones. If you have references, for example, the same ones, you can immediately lock all the references so you don't accidentally select them. Next, we have the object parameters. Here, there are viewport parameters, camera parameters, and the camera point. Well, basically, the camera has a point, and then there's the camera itself. The camera rotates around this point, and you can move the camera itself, or you can move the point. Next, there's also the background. You can specify a file or choose to display it at all. And you can set it to be gray. Next, we have display settings and basically material display. If we click it, our cubes will turn grayish. But that's temporary. If you press enter, the color effect will disappear. And then there's an option to make it appear permanently. A left click will make it colored, turning our cubes grayish. A right click will make them transparent again. Next is the render button. If you click it, a render window will appear. And it renders in stripes that gradually disappear, revealing a render underneath. There you go. Let's close the window. Next, we need to create a light source so it illuminates the scene. Those are the parameters, the size. We can enable the size option. Click here. And let's take a look. We get 180 millimeters in length. To make sure we're using millimeters, you can check right here. At the bottom, it will say that we are using millimeters. The size is created as a shape that you can easily delete. Next is Grasshopper, which is used to create complex objects using mathematics and assistance. And here in the tabs, if you want, you can look through everything. There are view functions, display parameters, selection options, and different viewports. There are display options, various movement tools, curves, surfaces, solids, meshes, renders, rendering functions, and so on. There are all sorts of functions there. What's new? It's even 6 o'clock. And now we come to the menu that we use most often. Here there's a cursor tool, which, for example, if you created some curve, you can select the cursor and it will cancel it. There are points. If you left click, a single point will be created. If you right click, you can create multiple points. Next we have a line, but look, if you left click, you'll get a polyline. That is a line along which you can draw continuously without stopping. But if you right click, you get just a line with a defined start and end point. You get a segment like that. There you go. More, period. Next we have the curve tool. So click, 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 click. Again, it has both a left click and a right click option. And also notice that, look, if you see, all the tools have a little corner, a small triangle in the corner. If you hold down the left mouse button for a while, you can see how many tools are grouped there. And you can right here hold and bring up this little menu. If you often use the curvature tool, you can pin it here so you can create a lot of points quickly. Like this, like this, like this. You create a bunch of points and then you need to connect them with different curves. You just go click, click, click and connect them all together. By the way, Ctrl+Z is undo and Ctrl+Y is redo. And if you get tired of this menu, you can close it. Next, you have the circle, ellipse, arc, square, polygon, and curve tools are useful set. Here you have what I use most often. There's rounding, curve, chamfers, but I usually use this type of connection. It allows you to create GON, G2, and G3 connection. It also has right click and left click options. There you go. We'll create a smooth connection like this. Let's raise this point. There you go. Next, we have surfaces and various functions. Here I most often use a networking course. Then we have commands for working with surfaces. For example, the limit is the connection of surface areas. If you have one edge of a surface here and another one there and they don't match up, you take this edge and move it closer to that one. It connects to it. Next, we have functions for creating solid objects, such as a cube, cylinder, or sphere. And then we have Boolean operations. Let's combine a small cube with a large one. We select both of them and perform a Boolean operation. Okay. It said that the history was broken, but that's not a big deal. Here, we've joined our two cubes. Next, we have functions for projecting a curve. Let's draw something here. A little spiral. And so, where is it? Here is our spiral. And we can project it onto the top of our cube. Just like that. Project, select the cube, press enter. Now this spiral is applied to the cube. There it is. We can use some functions for solids and pi. Like this. And now we actually have this kind of worm right here on the very top. Next, after the project function, we have object checking and object restoration functions. And now merge the objects. These are the kinds of functions available also for surfaces and objects. Next, we have join and break. We have a curve. Here are the curves. And we want this curve to be joined with this one as a single curve. Now look, for example, I take solids working with solids bodies extrude, press enter, and the surface is extruded. It turned out that our curve was not closed. We select these two, this curve and this curve, and join them. Now it is closed, and if we select extrude, it will be extruded as a solid body. And if you don't want it to be joined, and Ctrl+C won't help you because you did 100 actions ago, for example, you can use break and it will separate it. The only downside of break is that if you have already joined different curves, it will split them apart again. Just like that. Next we have trim, which means cutting objects. Then comes split. Here we have a curve. We select it and click split, click, and it's cut into two parts. part 1 and part 2 on the other side. Let's select this and do it. Here is part 1, part 2. Next we have group objects, ungroup and show control points. Let's draw them here, a spline. And if we select it, we can see these points, and if you move them, the shape will start to deform. These are control points. If you right click, these points will disappear. Left click, they will appear when you use the show control point command. By the way, if you right click, if you click in an empty space, it will repeat your last command. Next we have text and moving objects. Of course, I most often use the gumball to move around. This is the function. But we can also use the move command. That's if I want to move something precisely, for example, to move the curve right here. With the gumball and its arrows, I wouldn't be able to move it like that. The gumball is enabled right here. It's a convenient feature. After moving comes copying. Click copied. After copying comes rotation, and then we have various things like scaling, analyzing, and direction. Rate to arrange our objects. Then comes dealing objects. This allows us to align objects in a line or to a single point, or for example to center them. Here I'm creating a sphere to try to demonstrate this to you. A little cylinder. And let's say we'll select all 3 of them. Click, 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 and press this button. There. Well, of course, the tool will arrange them like this, as you can see, and you can set different arrangements for the object. Next, we have functions like tapering the object, bend, to bend it or curve it along a path. Next, we have object checking. Here, I've prepared a little example like this. This is a good object. If we click on check, it will say that this is an extruded object, but that's a standard function in the tool and there are no errors. And here, I've prepared a bare object. You can see how the geometry is all distorted. It's intersecting itself. So if we click check, it will list how many errors we have here. And that's convenient. We can open it and read a specific error here, for example. Here's an error. And we can fix it on our object. After checking, we move on to the define block. This is about the base point. We can think of it as like a block, some kind of object. And after the block comes the history settings. Next, at the bottom, we have perspective, top, front, right viewport changes. There you go. Click, click, click. I can switch between them easily. Here we have grid snap, a function that snaps to this grid right here. And now I'll demonstrate it for you. Let's take the point function and try it without grid snap. See, the point appears all over the place. Let's select them all and delete them. We'll use the points again, but this time we'll turn on grid snap. Let's see. You can see how they snap to the power paper grid. Next, we have ortho snapping at 90 degrees. You can see how ortho works. If you turn it off, it goes all over the place. Turn ortho on, and it draws straight lines. Manual ortho, one-time ortho. You could say it's activated by holding down the shift key. Click, 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 click. There you go. Next we have OSnap. These are all those snaps. So let's say we have a line. We'll create another line, turn it off, and try using OSnap. You see, we cannot tie ourselves to this line so that the point is exactly at the beginning, for example, exactly at the end, or somewhere on the line. Turn on OSnap, and now we can snap exactly to the end, or somewhere on the line. There you go. Click, click. somewhere on the line, click, and it's closed. That's how OSNAP works. After OSNAP, we have Smart Track. Let's create some points. Yes, let's create some points. Click, 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 click. Let's select Smart Track. Here, it's enabled for us. Now we take the line tool, press it, and you see it suggests building along some straight line like this. So like this. Here, I cross it. This is what Smart Track does. It creates these kinds of lines. We can guide it along. We can hold it here, click. Eat. So I've shown how Smart Track works. Next comes the history recording. Let's draw some kind of shape. It's been recorded in the history. Now, look, I'm extracting a spline. Extrude. This means record history is enabled. I select the spline, move it, and it changes. Watch this. Click. Very convenient. You can create a little circle here. Here it is. Let's lift it up. But if you mess up the history, like I did in my video, remember? When I performed the Boolean operation, and it turned out the history was broken, well, in that case, it might not work. Otherwise, it works perfectly. Let's project it in a direction. Boom. See, it says the history is broken. Now, let's take this. Okay, now if we move the spline of this object, it won't change anymore, see? Let's do a fill right here. There. And now, look, we can change our shape, and it will change right here in the field trace. I honestly think this is a really great feature, this history recording function, you know. I'm saying that I broke all of this, that I deleted it. And next, we have filters, like these. This is so you can select only points or only curves, for example. Look, let's create some points. We take the filter, I select points. If you hold Control, you can select only one thing, drag across, and all the points will be selected. Next. It's a useful thing, but I usually use it over here. Cell P, cell point here. It does exactly the same thing. Let's try it. Type unda, that is, to undo. And cell PT, there, selected it. Here, PT set down. See, all the points are highlighted. In this menu, there's Properties, the first tab. It can also be enabled like this. There are settings for the viewport, camera, and target. So this is the tab we went over. Next comes rendering the render settings. Then comes material. Well, on our computer we can find something. Then there's help and layers. There are also additional settings. Here we can enable different tabs for this right here. It adds more tabs. So instead of just those tabs, we can enable and get new ones. For example, we can enable Clio or a calculator here. Here's a calculator. We can enter let's delete our construction with the worm, divide. And now we can now measure the length of all the sides. The font on side is about 400. The other side is also 400. So it's 400 by 400. In the calculator we enter 400 plus 400 equals 800 plus another 800. That makes 1600. Of course, if the example were more complicated, you could use the calculator to work it out. But in this case, it's easy enough to calculate in your head. Now we can take a look at the go function. You probably noticed that I press equals, not go. That's because, look, we take the cube, turn on its center mode, and we can't precisely select the center, so we clear everything, set it to 0, press go, and it automatically sets it to 0 for us. For our plane here, this is our plane, let me draw it. These are the y coordinates, and these are the x coordinates. The point 0 is located at their intersection. Well, that's how it is. And do you see this green line here? If we zoom in, we can see that there's a green one and a red one going across. And between them, there's a little white dot. That's exactly the intersection point is 0. Let's set it to 300. We'll erase it because the 0 ended up in front. 300. Let's press go. It indicated to us that this is the length. So it enters some number here. We can see 300. Again, 300. Let's hit go. And here, go for 300. And now we have a cube. We've looked at the calculator, so we can wrap up our lesson. This was Robert FTP with you. Bye bye everyone. Like this video and subscribe to our channel.